Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Wednesday Weed Waffle. Please forgive the odd background. I'm traveling at the moment, and yes, I'm in a hotel room, and yeah, so you have to bear with me. But yeah, so welcome to the Wednesday Weed Waffle, and today we're going to talk about mushroom madness. And it is going to be a bit of talking because for one thing, it's dark outside, and for another thing, like I say, I'm traveling, so I'm in a hotel room. If and when I can share pictures to try and highlight points, I will. But today, what I wanted to do is talk about mushrooms in general, how they work, some important things that you might want to know about them. But then we'll go into some details, and the details are really about how you identify mushrooms, about how you make sure that what you're picking is what you think it is, and that it's going to be perfectly safe to do so. So mushrooms in general, there's a two-edged sword to mushroom madness. The first is people go mad for mushrooms at this time of year. They want to know all about them, they want to pick them, they want to eat them. And then on the flip side, everyone goes a little bit mushroom crazy in that, oh, I've got some mushrooms. There's no way I'm eating them. Mushrooms are too scary. Mushrooms are too dangerous. So I want to try and dispel some of that for starters. Mushrooms can be dangerous, but they're actually no more dangerous than plants. There are plants out there that can do just as much damage as mushrooms can. And just as a slight aside, just to illustrate the point, in mushroom foraging, there is a method that you can use where you can pick a bit of a mushroom off, chew it at the front of your mouth, and spit it out, and use the flavor to help identify the mushroom. Now, that is genuinely an okay thing to do. You won't come to any harm doing that. However, as an experienced mushroom forager, I just want to let you know that I never ever do that for one very good reason, and that's I'm a clumsy sod. If I'm chewing a little bit of a mushroom at the front of my mouth, for example, a common UK mushroom called the destroying angel. So you can imagine with a name like that, how dangerous that would be. I know it would be just my luck. I'd be chewing a little bit at the front of my mouth to get a taste, see what it is, and I'd trip over something, or I'd hiccup, or I'd choke, and I'd swallow the thing. And it's just not worth the risk. It really is not worth the risk. Plus, on top of that, there are no mushrooms in the world that I'm aware of that you need to taste them to identify them. There are always other ways of doing it. So that's one reason, two reasons rather, that I never use that method. But also to highlight the point of which is more dangerous, that rule doesn't apply to plants. You cannot safely chew a bit of plant material at the front of your mouth and spit it out. There are plants out there that if you did that would land you in hospital. You'd be in a whole lot of trouble. So to be just blanket scared of mushrooms and not plants is a bit unfair on the fungi. So what I'm not going to get bogged down in is pronunciation, by the way. So I noticed that we've got some of our North American cousins on the call. So fungi, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. I call it fungi. Um, so fungus generally, without fungi, there would be no life on Earth. It really is that important. And what you see when you're looking at mushrooms is a tiny, tiny part of the organism. It's often compared to the apple from an apple tree. So what you're seeing is the fruiting body, the thing that helps with reproduction. And it's also one of the misconceptions that leads to people banning mushroom picking in the UK is that they think that if you pick all the mushrooms, they won't come back. Well, that's akin to saying if you pick all the apples off of an apple tree, the apples won't come back. So it's absolutely not true. Um, yeah, so that's mushrooms. Now, mushrooms, they're very, very special because they reproduce by spores. Now, mushrooms aren't the only organism that reproduce by spores, but reproduction by spores is the most inefficient method of reproduction known. A mushroom will produce hundreds of thousands of spores, and from those spores, it might not even reproduce once. If it's lucky, it might create one new organism. Now, the reason why I'm talking about spores is because when it comes to identification, knowing about the spores can be quite important. Indeed, a spore print is one of the ways of helping you to identify a mushroom. I'm just going to talk through it. I think I've probably got a picture somewhere, but I'm not going to waste your time sitting there waiting for me to find it. You take the cap of a mushroom, cut off the stem, and put it on a piece of card. Ideally, half black, half white, with the mushroom straddling both. A little bit of water on the top, and put a cup over the top of it. Leave it for 6 to 12 hours. What will happen is that the spores will drop out of the mushroom onto the card. And the reason you've got it 50-50 is because you might have white spores, you might have black spores. There are also all other colours of spores, but this makes sure that you can see what colour they are. And it's well worth doing just as an interesting thing, because the spore print itself is like a carbon copy of the underside of the mushroom. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. But the colour of the spores is really important in the identification. Now, you may be thinking, I don't want to take the mushroom home and wait 6 to 12 hours. Well, if you're lucky, you may come across mushrooms where you've got one growing and one growing slightly underneath, and you may be able to see the colour of the spores on the top of the mushroom. Or if they've dropped a lot, sometimes you can see the colour of the spores on the stem of the mushroom. So there are other ways around it. So I've mentioned the stem of the mushroom. Let's talk about the different parts of the mushrooms. The stem is actually called a stipe in mushrooms. And so there's the stipe and the cap, usually. This is standard mushrooms, not all mushrooms have these. At the bottom, there could be a bulb that the mushroom is grown out of, or an egg sac. There could be a ring or skirt on the stem, which is where part of the mushroom structure has fallen away as the mushroom grows. The gills on the underside, the gills that you'll see in common supermarket mushrooms, and the cap itself. Now that's the standard mushroom that everyone thinks of. There are other types as well. There are ones that don't have stipes, ones that grow straight from their material, be it a tree or grass. And you have different alternatives to gills as well. They can have false gills, they can have holes, as in polypore mushrooms, or they can have spikes, as in hedgehog mushrooms. So there's lots and lots of different variety. I want to talk very briefly about cooking and eating mushrooms, because that's something I can cover very quickly. In general, there are only a few wild mushrooms that you can eat raw. Generally, all mushrooms should be cooked thoroughly before eating. And when I say thoroughly, I mean seriously thoroughly. Give them a very good cooking. In fact, even shop-bought mushrooms release more of their nutrients in cooking, so it's a good idea to cook them anyway. So that's cooking aside. What I wanted to really focus on today is the identification of mushrooms. So if you belong to any of the Facebook groups, this is a perennial nightmare for the experts on those groups. But what I'm going to tell you about how to identify mushrooms applies both for yourself to be able to identify the mushroom using reference books and online resources, but also if you're going to ask for help from a recognized expert or from someone you know or on a Facebook group, you need to give them all of this information. It's really, really common. You'll see posted on the group, someone puts up a picture of a little mushroom on its own and says, ID, please. It's just not enough information. So I also want to talk about mushroom identification from a forager's point of view. If I see, for example, one little brown mushroom that big on its own, sitting in the grass, I won't bother identifying it. And if you ask me to, I'll tell you the same thing. Because from a forager's point of view, that's never going to be of any use to me. So I don't care whether it's edible or not, because it's one tiny little mushroom on its own. It's no use to me. If I find a cluster of similar mushrooms or a big chunky mushroom, then that's different. As a forager, that's going to be of interest to me. If you want to know about the little individual mushrooms, consult a mycologist or join one of the mycology Facebook groups. They're the places to find out about those odd little mushrooms. So the things that you need to bear in mind. So you need to take a step back from the mushrooms that you've found. I mean, and when I say a step back, I mean walk back 10 paces, turn around and look and see what you can see. So I'm talking about the whole environment. Is it growing at high altitude? Is it growing up a mountain? Is it growing at the bottom of a valley? Is it growing on a hillside? Is it growing on a bit of flat land? And then you can start looking at the other features around you. Is there a river nearby? Is the ground boggy and wet? What sort of other things are growing nearby? So, are there trees at all? And if there are trees, what type of trees are they? Is it growing in grass? Sometimes things can get a bit confusing. Different mushrooms grow on grass, trees, leaf litter, all sorts of different places. And how it's growing is really important. But one thing to be wary of is if you've got mushrooms growing at the bottom of a tree, they could actually be growing on the tree roots rather than growing from the ground around the tree. So that's one thing to bear in mind. And also the type of tree is really important. Certain mushrooms only grow on or near certain plants and trees. It's not always guaranteed with some of them. Some of them it's most of the time. But for example, the birch polypore mushroom only ever grows on silver birch trees. Um, the Judas ear or jelly ear mushroom mostly grows on elder trees, but can also be found on beech, oak, sycamore, and a few others. So these relationships are important because it will help you to identify the mushroom itself. So we've stepped back and we've looked at the big picture. It's also worth bearing in mind what the weather's been like recently. For example, if there was a frost yesterday, oyster mushrooms, for example, love a frost. A frost can really force oyster mushroom fungus to put forward more fruit on the following day. So these are things worth knowing. And then we can go in for a closer look. So it's worth knowing, is there one mushroom on its own? Is there a load of mushrooms in a cluster? Are there a load of mushrooms growing in a long line? Are there a load of mushrooms growing in a circle? So these things all help us. And then we're going to go in a little bit closer and look at the mushrooms themselves. So are they growing from wood? Are they growing from grass? Are they growing from leaf litter? What are they growing out of? This is really important. Next, we're going to look at if it's got a stipe, if it's growing out of the ground, it's really useful to use a tool to dig out the bottom of the mushroom. Because what we want to see is it just a straight stipe that goes straight into the ground? Excuse me. Is it a straight stipe that becomes bulbous at the bottom? Is it a straight stipe that's got a bulb at the bottom but seems to be growing out of an egg sac, which is quite common? That's a really, really important thing to know. The stipe itself, is it thick? Is it thin? Is it tall? Is it short compared to the rest of the mushroom? And breaking the stipe can be quite a useful identification feature. So when you break it, does it break into stringy fibers or does it break like a piece of chalk or a piece of cheese? These can be useful. So going up to the underside of the mushroom, and I'm just talking about the standard cap mushrooms for now. What structure does it have underneath the mushroom? Does it have gills or does it have spikes? Or does it have a flat surface with lots of holes? If it has gills, how do the gills attach to the stipe? So a good way of telling is to cut the whole thing in half, and then you can see how the gills attach. Are they completely detached from the stipe? Do they attach and then roll in a sort of S shape down the stipe? Are they completely attached? Do they run down the stipe somewhat like a chanterelle would? These are all important things. Back to the gills. Are the gills closely packed together or are they widely spaced apart? Do the gills break easily if you brush your finger against them, or are they quite resistant? Are the gills all locked side by side like this, or are some of them forked and they grow in between like that? And also, it can be quite useful to try cutting the gills with a knife and see if they exude any liquid, because that can help you to identify a milk cap, for example. So going to the rest of the cap, sorry, I've skipped over a part. So when a mushroom grows out of the ground, it's generally completely covered up and the stipe comes out. And what happens is the underside that's covered where the gills are will peel away. Now, on some mushrooms, that leaves a skirt around the middle of the stipe. It's worth looking out to see if it's got a skirt or not. Um, to answer your question, Erin's asking, are there any you shouldn't touch? And it's kind of a 50-50 question. No, there isn't. There are no mushrooms that will poison you through your skin. However, there are mushrooms that are so poisonous that handling them and then touching your mouth could make you ill. Um, so yeah, there aren't any that you shouldn't touch, but just be aware after you've touched them, you need to wash your hands. Yeah, so that's the stipe. Moving on to the cap. The cap might have remnants of that skirt that's known as a veil around the edge of the mushroom. That's worth knowing about. You know, the classic toadstool, fly agaric or Amanita muscara, the one that you see in fairy tales, bright red cap with white spots on. Those white spots are actually the remnants of the veil that was covering the mushroom when it grew out. So actually, you can find Amanita muscara that don't have white spots on because they get washed off by the rain. So that's something else that complicates matters as well. So there might be spots of the remnants of a veil on top of the cap. Now, another thing to think about is the cap big compared to the whole mushroom? Is it small? Um, is it perfectly rounded like you'd expect that toadstool mushroom cap to be, or is it completely flat? Is it slightly inverted, actually? So it's the other way round. And they can also have what's called an umbo or a nipple on the top as well. So that's another thing that's worth bearing in mind. Um, how the mushroom smells is a really good thing to take note of. Um, Quite commonly, there's the chanterelle and the false chanterelle, but the chanterelle has quite a fruity apricot-like smell, so that can really help with the identification as well. So those are standard ordinary cap mushrooms, but there are other things, other types to look out for. I mentioned the birch polypore. There's also really, really common. It's known as the penny bun in the UK. It's called a cep in France, and it's called oh, the word's gone out of my head. Porcini in Italy. Very, very popular mushroom. Just has different names in different parts of the world. It's part of the bolete family. I'll just see if I've got a picture I can share for that one because I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, so the bolete, can you see the mushroom on my screen? This is the classic bolete shape, a penny bun. What you can't see from this one is the underside of it. So if I get this drawing up instead, in the drawing, you can see in the underside, it doesn't have gills. It has holes instead, and that's how it distributes its spores. So this is a fantastic, really popular wild edible. Um, but even then, knowing this shape and knowing that it's got spore holes, it's not enough because there are poisonous ones that are this shape and have spore holes. So there's a lot to go into with that. Now, what I've done is I've given you a whistle-stop tour of some of the features of a mushroom that you need to know to be able to identify it. And like I said, if you want me to identify a mushroom for you, I need to know all of those details as well. So you need lots of pictures, lots of details, and as much information as you can. And what I always tell people is if you're worried that you're giving me too much information and it's going to be not interesting and not worth sending to me, absolutely not. Give me more information, if anything, but you'll never send me too much if you want me to help you to identify something. Um, what I will say also is, as part of this, those of you that have come along, I'm going to share a picture that often gets passed around. I'll email it out to you, but it highlights all of the things that I've just gone through. So it'll be a good thing to help you to remember how to identify the mushrooms. Now, there are no shortcuts, I'm afraid, with mushroom identification. You've got to do the work. You've got to find out all of those features. Um, there are potential, I've said there are no shortcuts. Now I'm going to say there are. There are potential shortcuts. You can work with fungus families. So families have a lot of similar characteristics. And so if you find one that you're sure is in that family, that can help you to jump ahead in the identification. Um, and it's the same for plants. It works better with plants, but it does work with mushrooms. So it's worth looking into. If you see a lot of mushrooms like the one that I just shown you, it's worth learning about the bolete family. So then you'll get a head start next time you see them. Um, Now I usually waffle on for 10 to 15 minutes. Mushroom identification is a huge topic in of itself. I could talk for hours, but unfortunately, like I said, I am away and I've got to finish on time today. So I'm going to say that's all I'm going to waffle on for about mushrooms for now. And I'll throw it open to you guys. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to type them into the chat or unmute and speak if you want to. I'll grab my tea, one more whistle.
It sounds like you could probably do a series on this, Gav. Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, definitely. I think with mushrooms though, the thing is they come out at different times of the year. So what I'll probably do is do a bit on mushrooms as and when I see them, but constantly with the Wednesday weed waffle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And I'm going to, unlike the other ones where I've made the recordings behind a paywall, because this is just general information that anyone can get. This recording I'm going to put up on YouTube, so it's there for you guys to refer back to and for anyone else to look at as well. Diana says, how long is the chanterelle season? Um, it depends what part of the world you're in. It usually lasts about 2 to 3 weeks if you're lucky. It can be a lot less than that. Um, I've got a massive patch of amethyst chanterelles near where I live, which is more than enough for me and lots of other people. However, this year, hardly any came up at all. So I'm hoping it's just going to be an oddity of the weather this year and that we're going to get lots next year. Pacific Northwest, yeah. The thing with how long the seasons are is the seasons tend to be about the same length depending on which part of the same length no matter which part of the world you're in. What I was thinking about with the depending where you are is if you're prepared to move around, it can stretch for a bit longer. So like in the UK, the chanterelle season starts in the south and moves north. So if you're like me, I live in a valley in Wales, so my chanterelles appear quite late. So if I know they're coming, I can move across the border into England, into some of the flatter areas, pick some chanterelles, and then know that in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to have loads appear near where I live as well. So yeah, if you're prepared to travel, the seasons can be extended. Chanterelles as well. There are false chanterelles that come out, I believe, a little bit earlier than the genuine chanterelles. Now, I've been eating false chanterelles all of my life because the resource I read when I was younger said they're edible. I've found resources since that have told me that they're poisonous. So false chanterelles are one to be a bit wary of. I think they're fine because I've been eating them all my life. But yeah, I need to do a bit more research and find out where that book got its information from. Oh, a quick thing a quick test for chanterelles or false chanterelles. Everyone talks about the gills because false chanterelles have gills. Chanterelles don't; they have folds. if you don't have the two right next to each other, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. So a much simpler way is you cut it in half. If it's white in the middle, it's a genuine chanterelle. If it's yellow all the way through, it's a false chanterelle. So that's a much, much easier way of identifying them. So as you know, and as I always tell you, I'm here for you. If you need help identifying things, I would rather help 1,000 people for free than hear about one person who was too scared to ask for help and got it wrong. So if you do need help, do feel free to reach out. And yeah, you never know, it might become the subject of the next Wednesday Weed Waffle if you do. So I'm going to sign off now. Thanks again, everyone, for coming along. It's been nice to have you here. I'll let you know, I'll send out an email and the usual social media messages to say when the recording's gone up on YouTube. And I should be able to get that. Actually, I'm away. I'll try to get that précis out to you about things to look out for identifying mushrooms as soon as I can. Can't guarantee it will be in the next day or two, though. I don't have anything set for next week's Wednesday Weed Waffle, but if I don't hear any suggestions from anyone, I'll put it out on social media and in the emails and let you know what's coming next week. So thanks again for coming, and I'll see you at the next one.